I hate for authors to have their dreams crushed. It's a lot of hard work and it's a lot of money. And when you do it yourself, it's a lot of responsibility. And like you say, when you need that help, you have to trust that person to help you.
Hey there. My name is Dr. Beth Russell, and I want to know, what would you do if you were not afraid? Right now. What would your life, your job, your relationships look and feel like if you could be unapologetically you? What's holding you back? This podcast is for anyone that wants to make a change but isn't sure where to start. Let's look inward together and let's talk about you and me, our mental health, our self-care, inner and outer selves, and all that makes us, well, us. It's time to get real, feel the feels, challenge what's holding us back, and connect. This is the Authentic and Brave podcast. Have you ever thought about publishing a book but aren't sure where to start? Our guest today, Karina Kentas, knows all about this. Karina is an international best-selling author and award-winning filmmaker. She's also the host and producer of Behind the Pen podcast and TV show, co-host and editor of the Flashback Radio, and host of one of the producers of Author Assist radio show. Karina is also Author Assist CEO, offering affordable publishing packages, coaching and mentoring, and media for writers and authors. Hi, welcome, Karina, to the Authentic and Brave podcast.
It's wonderful to be here, Beth. Thank you very much.
Yes, it's wonderful to talk with you again. What I wanted to do is just kind of start off with telling our listeners a little bit about who you are and what drew you to coming on the podcast.
The title, most definitely, Authentic and Brave. I think if my story and what I've done and what I've achieved can help even just one person, then I'm happy to be here. So I'm from the UK and I came to Greece 28 years ago. And I knew that I had to do something to elude my boredom of living in a little Greek village with no cinema and no bars and no nightlife or anything at that time. I mean, it's a bit different now and there's a lot more English girls living here. But at the time, I was surrounded by old people and donkeys and olive trees. So I decided I had two talents at that time. I still have them now, and that is singing and writing. And I decided to take my writing a lot more serious and try and get published. So my first book I wrote, it was a short story at the time, 18 pages. And when I decided to take my writing more seriously, I looked at it and I had this electronic typewriter. We're going back so many years now. So I started typing it up and one page ended up being 20 pages. And I was like, what's going on here? This is so weird. It's like magic. And by the time I'd finished this 18-page short story, I had a 60,000 word novel.
Wow.
And that was the first draft of my first book, In Times of Violence.
Oh my gosh. Wow. It sounds like you just got lost in it.
I just got lost. I was in the zone. We call it the zone. It's actually a real place for writers where you just get surrounded by this bubble. And nothing can get inside and nothing can go out of this bubble. It's just you and the stories. And the story comes alive and it practically writes itself. Your fingers are just like now for a keyboard. I'll talk as a keyboard because back then it was a typewriter. It just flows across the keyboard and it's just magical what happens. I mean, many authors go through this zone and so they understand what I'm talking about. I've never heard of it before. It's just a place where we go where the magic happens, where the characters talk to the author. And when the author comes out of the zone, the writing is gold. It's when a writer forces themselves to write that they'll look the next day and they probably can't use half of it. But when you're in the zone, that is pure gold. So that was the start of writing my first book. After that, they just came naturally. I thought it was going to be a one-off. I honestly thought it was going to be a one-off. But I wanted to have some short stories published just to build up my CV as a writer, my credentials and stuff. So I had many flash fiction of different genres. Flash fiction is like 5-minute fiction. It's one page on 1 or 2 pages in a book. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole story, start, middle and end. So I was the queen of flash. And I had numerous flash fictions published in online magazines and newspapers and stuff. So I was growing my CV, and I had my one novel, and then the fans were screaming out for a sequel. So I did a sequel, and it went on from there. And to promote myself, because I didn't know anything about marketing or promoting myself as a writer or author, my book, nothing. I had to learn everything from scratch. When I first published the book, I was burnt by a vanity press. And so I lost a lot of money in that mistake. Sadly, they're still around now, and they are still grabbing the desperate new authors that want to get their work published. As with Author Assist, I've come across my clients and people that I've worked pro bono for because they were in a desperate situation, burnt by vanity press. I've took on their case. I've got their contract back, and I've republished the book for them. And I've done that free of charge because I know they couldn't afford to pay me. Going back, I just wanted to let people know that they are still around now, unfortunately. But going back to how Author Assist all started, I started making book trailers for my work and my books, and I was doing excerpts, just 5-minute readings from my books. And because of my accent, other authors were listening to them and thinking, oh, I'd love her to read from my book, and the people were loving the book trailers and saying, can you do a book trailer for me? And so Author Assist started with 2 services, book trailers and narrations. 8 years on, it went up to 30 different services, and it was still me. It was still me doing them all.
Wow. That's a lot for one person.
It is. I started Author Assist, and I made Author Assist into something more than it was because I enjoyed helping people. I knew that I was helping authors that were desperate because they didn't know how to market and promote themselves. They were in the situation I was 28 years ago, and I wanted to do something about that. And so I wasn't just doing the work for them and give me your book and I'll put it out there for the world to know. I was teaching them how to do it themselves. So they never had to hire someone again. And they knew what they were doing, and they felt confident about promoting and marketing themselves and their books, and they were competent in doing it. And that's what Author Assist was all about. It was giving back and teaching other authors how to do it themselves, and not just taking their money and doing the service and then them having to come back and ask again, I've got a new book coming out, can you help me? There are authors that I work for full time that are so busy, just constantly writing one book after another, coming out, publishing, that they just don't have time to do it themselves. So yes, I will do that for them, especially when they have new books and we have to do a marketing plan and we have to launch and then do the pre-order and then the release and the blog tours and everything. I'm involved in all of that with my clients that I work for full time.
It's interesting because I think sometimes people have this, well, I know they do, this fantasy that they write a book and they get a book deal or they self-publish and they're waiting for the check to come in and that it's going to be this huge, wonderful success. And I mean, I've published a book myself. I know many authors. Authors have to wear a lot of different hats. And it's not a simple process. And what you highlighted is you can't always trust people or publishers. You have to know who you can trust. And first, you got to trust yourself, and then pay attention to the signs and research. And if you are going to hire someone to help publish and promote, that has to be the right people.
Exactly. In my situation, and even now with other people in the same boat as I was, there wasn't ebooks, so it was just paperbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, you needed to have an agent or a publisher to really get your book out there.
Mm-hmm.
Self-publishing and indie publishing was just coming out.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a big thing. So I thought my book was ready.
Mm-hmm.
I submitted it to agents, publishers. I got so many rejections, and I was adamant that this was going to be published. And so when I got someone contacted me saying, we can do it for you, and the lights and the stardom, and we're going to make you a star, and you're going to be a best-selling author. And of course you listen to all that, and your dreams are crushed. But even now, new authors think that there's going to be a bidding war between agents over them, and they're going to have a 6-figure royalty check. Reality, people, it doesn't work like that. I mean, for some lucky people like Colleen, who was a indie author, and it just took off, and she just had such a great team behind her, and she knew what she was doing, and she's an amazing author anyway. And for someone like that, it happens. She's now published. She's not indie anymore. She's published and she has an agent. And so, you can only go so far as an indie author anyway before they want to grab you and take you on, because you've made it already as an indie author, as a published, not an indie, we'll say you've made it as a published author, a best-selling author on your own back. And so they are climbing up the trees to try and get you to sign with them. That's the only way you're going to have a bidding war over you. But authors dream, and we can dream, but we have to face reality. I hate for authors to have their dreams crushed. It's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of money. And when you do it yourself, it's a lot of responsibility. And like you say, when you need that help, you have to trust that person to help you. Author Assist and hiring any VA is all about trust, because they have to trust you with their passwords and to go into their accounts and to do the promotion as them. And I have to trust my clients to listen to my suggestions. When I say a book cover's not working, we need to change it. When I say the blurb needs rewriting, when I say the website needs updating, I'm not saying it to be a pain. I'm saying it because it really needs, and I know what I'm talking about. And if you listen to me or not, that's of course up to you. But if you do listen to me, things will improve. I had this one client who had these beautiful poetry books, but the covers her neighbor did, and she didn't want to get rid of them because her neighbor did them, but they weren't selling the books. And she wouldn't listen to me, and I was adamant. And when I was promoting them, I was actually doing graphics myself and not using the covers. And that way the books were selling from my graphics because the covers weren't. And 2 years on, I now see her with new covers.
Yeah.
Are you a therapist looking to grow your practice and help more people in need? Look no further than Headway. Headway is the leading therapy referral platform that connects individuals with top-rated therapists in their area. By joining the Headway network, you'll have access to a steady stream of new clients who are seeking the help and support that you provide. Being a Headway therapist allows you the flexibility and support you need to promote your services and increase your visibility in the community. Joining the Headway network is easy and free. Simply sign up online, create a profile, and start receiving referrals from individuals who are seeking your expertise. Head on over to www.authenticandbrave.com/Headway to get started today. I'm hearing you say there's a big part of when you're working on a project with an author is the relationship.
Oh,
and
wow,
the back and forth between, as a writer and an author, you have a vision of what the book cover looks like, what the book looks like, what it's going to do in the world. But also from your perspective, there are things that may need, because it's sentimental. I mean, it's like putting a baby into the world for many people.
It is, exactly. It's your child, it's your baby.
Yeah.
You don't want anyone to touch it. But you have your ideas. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, a normal VA would do the job. They get paid, they promote, they do the job. They don't have any knowledge really into the full marketing aspect. Being an author and being into marketing and knowing what I'm talking about and being knowledgeable and 28 years in the industry now, I've never worked only as a VA. I always gave my opinion when they asked it, and I was always very honest. Whether it was brutally honest or not, I was always very honest. And that's given me a really good reputation in the community, that people know if they ask me, they're going to get the truth, which, you know, they say they want it, but of course, like I say, with the covers, some people just don't want to hear it.
It's hard to hear. Sometimes
it is hard to hear.
That feedback, people hear it as criticism when really it's feedback, constructive feedback to make some changes in order to, again, meet that vision of where someone thinks the book should go or should be.
I mean, some testimonials on my website from past clients, some say, I had my own ideas, but she had to reel me in because, you know, she had to put reality. She gave me a reality check. And that's really nice when they actually listen to you and they thank you for it, because they know that you've made their life a lot easier and the book's selling better now because, you know, I give them that suggestion, my advice, and again, whether they take it or not. But with someone who's, I mean, you can have VAs that have been working for 10 to 15 years, but they're not going to webinars, they're not going to seminars, they're not keeping up with the trends, the latest marketing trend, what's happening with the books, what's happening in the industry. If you're going to work for your clients and do the best you can, you need to keep up. You can't keep doing what you did 10 years ago because it doesn't work the following week. It changes so drastic, the promotion of books and the way things, it's like your cover could sell 30,000 books and then 6 months later, there's a new trend for covers and your book stops selling. And authors do, I mean, even publishers do it. They have to change the covers. They have to go with the trend. And if someone's working for you that doesn't know all about this, then they're just going to keep on taking your money, doing the same thing over and over again. And you're going to be wondering why there's no sales coming in, you know? So for myself, I've always pushed myself. I always go to seminars and I am on panels all the time, giving my advice and learning about the new things that are happening. And of course, one of the big things right now is taking the jobs of VA is, of course, AI coming into the picture.
Yes.
That's pretty scary. I'm not happy with it at all. And I know it doesn't matter how I try to avoid it, it's here to stay. But there's already, you know, people are seeing the copyright issues with AI, with the images and the text that they're giving for people, for their blurbs and their story ideas. They're coming from somewhere. Where are they coming from? Computer doesn't have a brain. They're getting it from online.
Are you a fan of young adult fiction, magic, and adventure? Then you won't want to miss Kindreds, the thrilling new fantasy novel from author B.B. Russell. Join our heroine, 16-year-old Lila, after the death of her last living relative when she reconnects with a boy named Joey from her childhood who harbors a secret. Needing to know what it is, Lila follows him and finds herself in Carnival Noliana, a disappearing world of magic and wonder, hidden just beyond the veil of the ordinary that is looking for 10 new members. With Noliana set to disappear at the end of Masquerade in 4 days, Lila must decide if she should follow her heart and Joey into Noliana for good, or trust her instincts and intellect that Noliana may not be what it seems. With unforgettable characters, a battle between listening to one's head or one's heart, and heart-pounding action, Kindreds is the perfect choice for anyone who loves young adult fantasy. So don't wait, pick up your copy today and embark on an epic adventure you won't soon forget. Kindreds by B.B. Russell is now available at your favorite bookstore or at www.authenticandbrave.com/kindreds, KINDREDS. You know, it seems like an easy fix or an easy thought generator, but the truth is it's missing the relationship aspect of
course,
book promotion, of working and getting feedback from people, even the imagination, like you were talking about in the beginning. You called it the zone, or sometimes you call it the flow. it takes away from some of that writing process. It's not easy to write a book. It takes a long time for people. And even if you write it quickly, it's somebody's heart and soul that they're putting out into the world. And so AI misses out on some of that.
Well, I had a promoter that I work with a lot. I can't remember his name now. I'd love to give him a shout out. Monkey something. I'm so sorry, I forgot. And he said that he had 20 books trying to get promotion from him that were obviously AI because they were published 2 weeks after one another. And to know that people are cheating like that, and they're cheating the reader and they're cheating the authors that are really trying to, like you say, put their heart and soul into a book, and they're using a computer to generate a book. I mean, it's going to stop. They're going to find a way to stop that. It's like with the narration now. I mean, even Apple has taken over allowing AIs to do the narration of a book, and they are very human sounding. But there's no emotion.
Yeah, right. Missing out on the emotion.
They're missing it. And I don't think they could ever get that because it's a human trait. It's not a computer trait. But it's a very scary thing anyway. But it's something that we have to deal with. So as I was saying, I had 30 services and I was doing it on myself. And I was burning the candle at both ends. I have very serious health issues, which is why I started Author Assist, because I couldn't do a 9-to-5 job anymore.
Okay.
So I decided, right, let's move forward with Author Assist, make it bigger. Let's offer more services, use all of my talents, all of my knowledge to give back to the authors. So it's like an a la carte menu. I'll have one of those, one of those, one of those. And 8 years like that. And I was working 10 hours a day, making sure that I gave everything I promised to my clients. The problem was I wasn't getting paid what I was worth.
Yeah.
And I didn't see my own worth at that time. Now, I don't regret working for pennies because I loved what I was doing. But I wish that even the people that screamed at me and said, you're not charging enough, you're worth so much more, I didn't listen to them. Just like I said to you about people not listening to me about the covers, I never listened to these people saying, you're worth more than that. And it took 8 years to find that. And so it was like a light bulb going off. I sat back and I was like, what have you been doing? You know, what have you... Yes, you've got an amazing company, you've got a wonderful reputation, but what have you got to show for it? You've got no money. You're not making money from it. And yes, you have insomnia, so you don't sleep, so you're working more and more hours. But again, even if you don't sleep, it's still not doing you good all the hours. You know, I don't have the money to pay to have someone work for me, which I need someone to work for me. But I didn't have the money because when I've got 14 books and I never had time to promote my own books. So I hired a couple of times a VA. First of all, no one lived up to my expectation, but nobody delivered what they promised. And that puts VAs in, a bad light when they work like that. Secondly, they were charging more than I was.
Yeah. There's a piece of what you're talking about of a self-worth. You're saying you were working all of these hours, you were believing in your clients, you weren't believing in yourself.
Exactly. Well, no, I believe in what I could do.
Well, no, right.
But my talents and everything, but I wasn't.
But to then charge and to
I was scared to charge more because I would lose my clients that I had because they couldn't afford to pay me.
Yeah. The question comes were they the right clients? And for a while they were people that it sounded like you believed in, you genuinely wanted to help. And
we've been 10 years plus together. We're more than clients now. Yeah. We've been friends for a long time. One of my clients is totally blind and relies on me for everything, for his books. I do his podcast. I do everything for him. And he started paying me bonuses without me asking for extra money before I changed everything. So I rebranded New Year and came back with less services. So I'm doing less hours. Any VA work I do, I'm charging hourly, whereas I was doing monthly, and anytime I was online, I was working. Now I'm doing hourly, which gives me more time for myself to do my other stuff, concentrate on myself, concentrate on my self-care, which was very important, which I didn't do. Like I said, I was constantly working. I never thought about looking after myself that way. And knowing with 28 years of knowledge, the talent that I have anyway, and the experience that I have, what I'm worth.
Yeah.
It took 8 years.
I love that you say that about you took a hard look at it and recognized what needed to change. They weren't easy changes.
No,
easy things. It wasn't a split-second decision. You said it took 8 years, but it has allowed you to rebrand, to work with clients that can afford your services. Also then allows you some downtime to take care of and just live. I mean, just self-care, but also engage in life in a different way and promote your own work and that
write more and
and be able to get into that zone again, probably that you might not have been able to had you kept doing what you were doing.
My podcast, which has been going 5 years, my radio show, which has been going 6 years, the podcast just gone to TV. It's coming out, the premieres is coming out on March the 18th.
Okay.
And it's going to 150 million homes.
Wow. Now, where would somebody find that?
It will be on Roku TV and Amazon Fire and Apple TV. Yeah. The podcast turn into TV wouldn't have happened if I hadn't rebranded. I've started coaching, mentoring, and I'm also doing speaking engagements about publishing, about the industry itself, about marketing and everything. None of that would have happened if I hadn't rebranded. And I take it from an outsider's perspective, if you hadn't seen your worth and asked for it, that asking for it, you knew it, you knew the services, you knew what you were bringing to the world, you were helping people, but asking for it is the next step. And so by asking for it, it's also opened all these other possibilities, which is amazing. Exactly. I thought Orthosys was going fine before, but I didn't realize until that light bulb went off that even though I was happy with what I was doing, I was happy with the podcast, the way it was going, the radio show, but it was just too much for one person.
Yeah. So we have just a couple more minutes. What would you like to leave the listeners with today about your story or about your services?
I'm going to use the title of the show. Be brave. Be brave. Stand up for yourself. See what you're worth. Listen to what other people say about you. Write down all of your achievements. Write down all of your skills, and you will be amazed at how long that list is. And that will clue into just how precious you are, and be brave to make that next step and be you, be authentic. Don't be someone you're not,
I love that. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Beth. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to the Authentic and Brave podcast. I want to remind our listeners that the content of this podcast is not a substitute for professional therapy or medical advice. The information shared in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you are experiencing mental health issue or any other medical concern, we strongly encourage you to seek help from a licensed professional. The National Alliance on Mental Illness, also called NAMI, helpline is a great resource and can be reached at 1-800-950-NAMI or 1-800-950-6264.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Authentic and Brave podcast. If you want more, head over to theauthenticandbravepodcast.com for show notes and sign up for the mailing list so you'll never miss an episode. If you're looking for inspiration, connection, and people like you and me, be sure to join my exclusive community on Facebook. The link's waiting for you at authenticandbravepodcast.com. This is Dr. Beth Russell signing off. See you next time.